Hello students, welcome back. How are you all? I hope you all are fine. So students, in this session we are going to discuss exercise questions of chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life. So let's start. Your first question is, make a comparison and write down ways in which plant cells are different from animal cells. That means you have to find out the differences between plant cells and animal cells. So first difference is animal cells are generally small in size, okay, because they don't have any external rigid structure. Outer membrane is very flexible, that's why they are small in size. While plant cells are larger than the animal cell because the structure of plant cell is rigid because of the presence of cell wall. In animal cells, cell wall is absent, but in case of plant cell, plasma membrane is surrounded by a rigid structure which is known as the cell wall and made up of cellulose. For understanding these points, we need to look at these two pictures. Let me show you. Now look here. So if you will observe animal cell, you will see it is surrounded by single layer, and that single layer is known as the plasma or cell membrane. Okay, but if you will look at the picture of plant cell, what you will observe? Plasma membrane is surrounded by an additional membrane which is known as the cell wall and which is made up of cellulose. Okay, so we can say cell wall is an additional feature in plant cell. Why? As we know, animals can move, they can protect themselves, so they don't need any extra layer. But plants are fixed at one place, so they need extra protective layer from the environmental condition. That's why they have an extra protective covering which is termed as cell wall, and this is the major difference between animal and plant cell. In addition with cell wall, plant is able to remain stiff and upright. Okay. If you look at this picture, you will see vacuoles are small in size. Okay, but if you look at the picture of plant cell, you will see a large central vacuole is present. Why? Plant cells have a large central vacuole where the animal cells have small vacuoles, and these are temporary structures in animal cell, while in plant cell vacuoles are permanent. But here the question is why? Because the main function of vacuole is to store water and maintain turgor pressure in plant cell. Okay, so to maintain rigidity and turgidity of the plant cell, vacuole is large and permanent in plant cell. It also prevents plant from wilting. On the other hand, cell wall is absent in animal cell, so they don't need to maintain rigidity of the cell. As a result, they don't need to store water in vacuoles. These small vacuoles appear when cell need to store content. After that, they degenerate. That's why they are temporary in animal cell. Are you getting it? This is the second major difference between animal cell and plant cell, that in animal cell, small and temporary vacuoles are present, whether in plant cell, large central vacuole and permanent vacuole is present to maintain its rigidity and turgor pressure. Now, the third difference is presence of plastid in plant cell. Look at this diagram. If you will observe plant cell, here you can see chloroplast is present, But if you will observe the diagram of animal cell, you will see no plastids are present here. As we know, generally animals are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs means they are directly or indirectly dependent on the plants for their food. But plants are autotrophs, which are capable to produce their own food. Okay, and for producing their own food, they need a special structure which is known as the chloroplast, which is capable to trap sunlight and utilize in the production of food. Because these are the pigmented organelles, so it impart colors to the plant, especially chloroplast, which gives green color to the plant. Now, fourth difference is the difference of Golgi apparatus. If you will observe the diagram of animal cell, you will see a prominent single Golgi apparatus inside the cell. So we can say in animal cell, Golgi apparatus is prominent and 1 in number. But if you will observe the plant cell, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 4 smaller units of Golgi apparatus. So what we can conclude from here, that Golgi is present as simpler and smaller unit throughout the cell, and here it is termed as dictyosome. So we can say dictyosomes are present in plant cell and one prominent Golgi apparatus is present inside animal cell. So these are 4 major difference between plant and animal cell. Let's recall it one more time. Cell wall is absent in animal cell while it is present in plant cell. Second is small vacuoles are present in animal cell which are temporary, and in plant cell large central vacuole is present which is permanent. Third difference is plastids are present in plant cells while plastids are completely absent in animal cells. Fourth difference is one prominent Golgi apparatus is present in animal cell. On the other hand, in plant cells, smaller units of Golgi present as in form of dictyosome in plant cells. Okay, so these are 4 basic difference which you need to learn about animal cell and plant cell. Now, moving to our next question. Your next question is, how is prokaryotic cell different from a eukaryotic cell? That means here you need to note down the differences between prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Pro means, as we have already discussed about it, pro means primitive, okay, and karyote word is derived from karyon, which means nucleus. Okay, so we can say the organism which have primitive type of nucleus are known as prokaryotes, and the organisms which have true nucleus are known as eukaryotes. Okay, eu means true, so that eukaryotes mean the organisms which have true nucleus. Okay, generally prokaryotes are unicellular. That means bacteria and blue-green algae are belong to this group. Eukaryotes are unicellular as well as multicellular, but mostly these are multicellular organisms. Okay. Next difference that we have is nucleus is, as the name suggests, primitive nucleus. So here the nucleus is poorly defined, and why? Because there is absence of nuclear membrane. For better understanding, look at these pictures. This is the picture of prokaryotic cell and this is the picture of eukaryotic cell. From this diagram, we can conclude here in prokaryotic cell, nuclear region is without any membrane, and genetic material is scattered inside the cell without a membrane, and this region is known as the nucleoid. That's why here nuclear region is poorly defined. This is the second difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. But if you will observe nucleus of eukaryotic cell, what you will see here, the nucleus is surrounded by a double membrane structure which is known as the nuclear membrane. Okay, so this is the major difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. In prokaryotic cell, nuclear membrane is absent, and in case of eukaryotic cell, nuclear membrane is present. In addition with nuclear membrane, nucleolus is also present inside the nucleus. So this is the third difference, that in case of eukaryotic cell, nucleolus is present, while in case of prokaryotic cell, nucleolus is absent. And fourth is, because we know prokaryotic cells are generally unicellular, they are very simple in structure, so they don't need specialized organelles to perform function. But in case of eukaryotic cell, body is very complex, so they have division of labor and they have specialized organelles to perform different functions. Like function of mitochondria is energy production. Chloroplast impart color to the cell, and it also perform photosynthesis. So for their specificity, they need to enclose in membrane. Okay, that's why in case of eukaryotic cells, membrane enclosed or membrane bound organelles are present, while membrane bound organelles are absent in prokaryotic cells. So these are the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Now moving to our next question. Now your next question is what would happen if the plasma membrane ruptures or breaks down? If plasma membrane ruptures or break down, then what will happen? Suppose this is the cell. If this region breaks down, the content of the cell releases out into the atmosphere, cell will dry and it dies after some time. Are you getting it? The next question is, what would happen to the life of a cell if there was no Golgi apparatus? For this, first we need to know what are the functions of Golgi apparatus. Okay, just look at this picture. If you go through the structure of Golgi apparatus, what you will see, Golgi apparatus is just like the traffic police. It is also known as the traffic police of a cell. Why? Because it controls the transportation of substances inside the cell. This is the cis phase of Golgi, which is also known as the receiving phase, and it receives proteins and lipids manufactured by endoplasmic reticulum. After receiving these substances, Golgi cistern, these are the cisternae. So these cisternae stores those substances, and this is the trans phase of Golgi, which is also known as the shipping phase of Golgi apparatus. Why it is known as the shipping phase? Because it transfers the products to the target organ. Are you getting it? So we can say the functions of Golgi are storage of substances, packaging of substances, and manufacturing of substances. So these are the important functions of Golgi apparatus. Without the Golgi apparatus, what will happen? The cell will disable to perform these functions. In absence of these actions, what will happen? Cell will not survive. So we can say, if there was no Golgi apparatus, cell will not produced. Are you getting it? So this would happen if there was no Golgi apparatus. Now moving to our next question. Our next question is, which organelle is known as the powerhouse of the cell? This is quite easy. Mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Why? Because it releases energy required for different activities of life. How? The food present inside the cell is dissociated in the presence of oxygen into carbon dioxide, water, and high amount of energy is released during this process, and this energy is stored in form of ATP. What is ATP? Adenosine triphosphate, and this is known as the energy currency of the cell. Are you getting it? That's why mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Then next is, where do the lipids and protein constituting the cell membrane get synthesized? Where the production of lipid and protein take place in ER. We already know ER of two types, SER and RER. Why this is known as RER? Because of the presence of ribosomes. Because ribosomes are the protein factory, that's why RER is responsible to synthesize protein, and it takes part in the lipid production. Lipids and proteins are synthesized in ER. Now moving to our next question. Our next question is, how does amoeba obtain its food? As we all know, plasma membrane is flexible in nature. So, in case of amoeba is able to change its shape with the help of plasma membrane, and it can form false feet, which is known as the pseudopodia. With the help of pseudopodia, it surrounds the food particle and convert it into the food vacuole. As soon as the food vacuole is produced inside the amoeba, the enzymes present inside the amoeba digest the food particle. Are you getting it? In this way, amoeba obtain its food. Or we can, and this process is known as the endocytosis. What is endocytosis? Intake of food by the cell membrane which form the food vacuole is known as the endocytosis. So in this way, amoeba obtain its food from the external environment. So now our next question is, what is osmosis? So many times we have discussed this term. Osmosis is what? The process of movement of water molecules from its higher concentration to the region of its low concentration. Okay, and which is important here? Selectively permeable membrane. You to understand the process of osmosis, just look at this picture. This system is separated by a selectively permeable membrane. What is it? Which allows entry and exit of some substances, not for all. It permits only some of the substances. Okay. Here, the blue circle represent the molecule of water and the green circle represent molecule of sugar. So what you can see, this is the system A, this is the system B, which is separated by a selectively permeable membrane. Here, pure water is present, so we can say here concentration of water molecule is quite high, but concentration of sugar is low because sugar is absent in pure water. But if you will observe this system, it is clearly visible here high sugar concentration and low water concentration. So what will happen? According to the definition, osmosis is what? Movement of water molecules from higher water concentration to a region of lower water concentration. Where is the region of higher water concentration? In system A. And where is the Reason of low water concentration? System B. So movement of water take place from A to B. So osmosis take place from higher concentrated region to the lower concentrated region. So this is the complete process of osmosis, and it will take place until equilibrium is not established between these two systems. That means until the concentration of both the system become equal. Okay, so this is the process of osmosis. Now moving to our next question, which is, here you need to perform an activity. What is that? Take 4 peeled potato halves and scoop each one to make potato cups. One of these potato cups should be made from a boiled potato. So here we have to take 3 raw potato cups, okay, and 1 boiled potato cup. Now keep cup A empty. Then in B, put 1 teaspoon sugar in cup B. Then in cup C, put 1 teaspoon salt, and in boiled potato cup, you have to put 1 teaspoon of sugar. Keep these for 2 hours, then observe the 4 potato cups and answer the following. First is, explain why water gathers in the hollowed portion of B and C. Why is potato A necessary for this experiment? And third question is, explain why water does not gather in the hollowed out portion of A and D. So let's discuss the answer of these experiments. If you will observe this picture, what you will see, water does not gather in the hollowed out portion of cup A. Why? Because to perform osmosis, we need 2 different concentration solutions. But here you will see, here the concentration of water molecule in both the systems is nearly same. But here, if we will talk about cup B, what will happen, because you have put sugar inside it, so here the concentration of water molecule become less because of the presence of sugar, and here concentration of water is quite high comparison with the sugar. Okay, so what will happen here, you will see movement of water take place from higher to lower region. So from here to here, water releases out from the cell. You will observe water gathers in cup B. Similarly, in cup C, we put salt solution. So here, if we will compare, because this is the salt solution, so here concentration of salt is high, but concentration of water is become low, and here concentration of water is comparatively high from the salt solution. So here also movement of water take place from its higher region to the lower region. That means here water releases out from the cell, and what will happen? Water gathers in cup C. In case of cup D, because this is the boiled potato, so you can see no osmosis take place here. Why? Because the cells are dead, and hence the membrane does not exist for the flow of water, and that's why no osmosis take place in case of cup. So are you getting this? So our first question is, explain why water gathers in the hollowed portion of B and C. So our answer is, water gathers in B and C because in both the situations there is difference in the concentration of water, and that's why osmosis take place. The next question that we have is, why is potato A necessary for this experiment? Potato A is necessary for this experiment for comparison. If we want to compare cup B, condition of cup B and cup C, so we need cup A for reference. Then third question that we have is, explain why water does not gather in the hollowed portion of A and D. As we have already discussed, Curve A, because here the concentration of water molecule is quite same in both the system, and here in curve D, water does not gather because the cells of boiled potato curve are dead. Hence, no osmosis takes place. So, these are the answer of this question. Now, our last question is, which type of cell division is required for growth and repair of gamete cells, and which type of cell division is involved in the formation of gametes? As we have discussed, cell division is of two types, and what are these? Mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis is responsible for growth and repairment of the cells, okay, and meiosis is specialized for the formation of gametes. Mitosis occur in body cells, whether meiosis occur in reproductive cells. And what are reproductive cells, or we can say gametes? As we know, in higher organisms there is division of labor. That means they have different organs to perform functions like heart to pump blood, kidney to excrete waste. Okay, similarly they have to produce young ones, they have reproductive organs, and these reproductive organs are capable to produce a special type of cells which are known as the gametes. And these organs are different in male and female. So that means male will produce different type of gamete and female produce different type of gamete. So male produce gamete which is known as the sperm, and female produce a special type of gamete which is known as the ovum. And the production of sperm and ovum is occurred by the process of meiosis. So meiosis occurred in the formation of gametes, and mitosis occur for growth and repairment of the cells. So these are the two different type of cell division. For growth and repair of damaged cells, mitosis occur, and for the formation of gametes, meiosis involved. That's all for now. In the next session, we'll start our new chapter, which is tissue. Till then, thank you and have a good day.